Welcome back to my channel. My name is Adrienne and today we are doing the Goodreads Choice Awards reading vlog. Now I decided I wanted to read the top 10 books in the mystery thriller category. I had originally decided that because I thought I read so many 2023 releases that would make it onto the list, but surprise, they did not make the list. So when the list released the top 20, that's the first round of voting and then it gets narrowed down to 10, I wanted to get a head start. I looked at the top 20 list and kind of guessed what I thought would be in the top 10 and decided to read from there. So looking at the top 20, I was a bit surprised that some of the books that I read weren't on the list, but also there's a group of books I'd never heard of, ones that I had heard of, but most of them I never planned on reading. And then there were 4 books that I had previously read. The 4 books that I had previously read are What Lies in the Wood by Kate Alice Marshall. This is a book about a woman who was attacked in the woods when she was a child with her 2 best friends, and she's finding out more about what happened after the man who went to prison for the crimes dies, and she's reuniting with those friends, learning things that she maybe didn't know at the time and things that they have kept from each other since then. It was a good book. It was a small town feel. I enjoyed unveiling the mystery and seeing more about their childhood. It wasn't my favorite read though. I gave it 4 stars. It was pretty good. I had also read None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This is about a woman who, when she's in a restaurant, she runs into this woman who has the same birthday as her, but our main character kind of has a boring, strange life, and she sees this other woman with her birthday that has a big group of friends. She's having a big celebration, and she looks at her life like, gosh, that looks like it would be nice. So she decides to talk to that woman and kind of gets involved with her life. That woman happens to be a famous podcaster, and they decide to make a podcast about her and going through her past and things that she's been through. And things get a little weird. I love Lisa Jewell so much. She writes about darker topics sometimes, but it's such a readable writing style that I almost always love her books. This one was a 5-star. I remember when I was reading it, I just couldn't put it down. I was so entertained and so intrigued to see what happened next. And then we have The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This book follows a woman who is a caregiver. She goes to take care of a woman who's elderly. She no longer speaks, and she lives in this old mansion on a cliffside. The house is in disrepair. It's literally crumbling into the sea. But that elderly woman, when she was a child, her whole family was murdered in this house, and the whole town has always thought that she's the one who did it. Our main character now is finding out some truth and some dark secrets from this woman who cannot talk, but she is typing them out on her typewriter. This book was honestly ridiculous. It had an absurd amount of twists, almost in a mocking way, like the author wanted to say, "You want more twists? Here you go," and he just went crazy with it. But honestly, it was fun. It was so much fun. This is another 5-star. I don't think it's the best thriller ever, but it's 5-star for entertainment value. And the last book that I'd already read is All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. I loved this book. Of the 4, this one is my favorite. This one follows a woman whose toddler son was taken a year ago. She's now broken up with her husband. She has severe sleep issues. And sleep issues in a thriller are pretty common, but I love the way that this author handled them. Our main character also meets a podcaster who wants to discuss the case with her, and they're still actively trying to find where her toddler went. There's a little touch of discussing true crime and the negative sides of this true crime culture that we've cultivated, where people are obsessed with these crimes and are really entertained by them, even though it's real life tragedy. And we're following this woman as she tries to find her son, deals with things that happened in her marriage, and also looks back at her past and her childhood and uncovers some secrets there. Again, this was such a page-turning, entertaining book. Just like these 2, 5 stars. These are all my favorite kind of mystery thriller. So the morning that I saw the top 20, I was actually going on a work trip to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I had no time. I was packing that morning before I headed to the airport, so I just grabbed my Kindle and went. And now let's jump into the vlog. Hello friends, I have made it to Scranton, Pennsylvania. I flew into Newark and then drove here, which of course I turned 2 hours into 3 hours, but I made it. I did some reading on the plane. I started The Coworker by Frida McFadden. I'm trying to read the books that I think are most likely to make it through the first round of votes. And I'm guessing The Coworker is gonna make it because Frida McFadden has been super popular. So in here, we're following a woman, I'm pretty sure her name is Natalie. So she's this top salesperson at this vitamin supplement company. Her coworker, Dawn, she does not show up for work. So the day before she didn't show up for work, she had asked Natalie to meet with her because she has something very important to tell her. And Dawn is super strictly scheduled, stickler for the rules. And the next morning, she's not at her desk at her normal scheduled time. And then she still doesn't show up. She didn't call in sick. And Natalie is worried about her. And then she gets this weird phone call where it sounds like someone says, "Help me," and then hangs up. So Natalie is going around trying to figure out if anyone knows anything, and then decides to go check at her house. So that's where I'm at with that so far. I was reading it on the plane and fell asleep about 15 times. Not because the book's not good. It's very, very readable. And I was actually having a fun time because it's so page turning, even though not much has happened yet. So I'm having a good time with that. Excited to pick it back up. But then on my drive, I switched to an audiobook. So I started reading Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll, which was not a book that I ever planned on reading, but I don't know. I just figured it's gonna be in the next round, so I wanted to start reading it now, and I'm actually enjoying it. Both books, I think I'm about 15% of the way in, and I am in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So I don't have any major plans for like outside of work hours because I don't think there's anything much to do here. So I just want to read. Look at this. Why is this a closet? And it was closed all the way. And I walked in like, this is how I'm gonna die. And I had to FaceTime my sister so I could throw something at it to make sure there wasn't a man in there waiting to kill me. Hello. I just finished day 1 at the office. Not the office that Scranton is known for, just a regular office. Last night, I was reading The Coworker by Frida McFadden in bed, quite a bit, and it was kind of spooky. So it's not actually a scary book. It's a scary book when you're alone in a strange place. It's kind of scary. So when the fireworks started going off at 10 p.m., I jumped so hard. No idea why there were fireworks. It was beautiful, lovely to watch from my bed. But I am enjoying the book so far. I'm almost 50% of the way through, I think. And our main character, Natalie, is getting a little sketchy. We're seeing that she may not always tell the truth, and she may not perceive herself the same way that others do. I still don't think she was involved with anything, but I'm not sure. Also, I won't tell you if she was because I'm not gonna spoil anything in this vlog. But Dawn, the missing coworker, is an odd lady. She collects turtles. She's absolutely obsessed with turtles, and that's all she ever wants to talk about. And it's so sweet. I can understand that would be annoying. And she doesn't read social cues, but that's who's missing. And I'm having a good time. I'm excited to see what happens. And I can really see why people are loving Frida McFadden's books because it's so readable. So easy to get through. So I had a little time today and I decided to rank how I think the books are gonna be, which books I think are gonna be in the top 10, if that's how many we get after the elimination round. And then I was like, why would I guess when I could just look at the Goodreads amount of ratings just to see how popular the book is, since the Goodreads Choice Award is a popularity contest, right? So I did that, and oh my gosh, I had no idea that Frida McFadden is so popular. So I'll throw out my little pathetic sheet that I made. Don't judge me. But The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden has 284,000 ratings. Second after that was None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, which only had like 150. That's crazy. You may have noticed yesterday, I picked which books to read based off of which ones I thought would be in the top 10. Young Bright Women is third from the bottom of how many ratings there are. And that doesn't mean they're not gonna make it, it just means it's less likely to make it, and I wanna read what's most likely to make it. So I'm actually gonna cut out some of my rambling on about that book because it doesn't matter what's happening in that book yet. I might have to read it later, but I don't have to read it right now. So I'm recalculating what I'm doing. I just downloaded I think it's called I Have Something to Tell You by Rebecca McKay. I downloaded that on Libby. Shout out to Libby for being free. And that's what I'm gonna be listening to. I'm gonna be physically reading The Coworker. It's only 6 p.m. And if I add in a little time to mess around and waste time, I still think there's plenty of time to read a big chunk of my book. Happy Friday. I am about to head home. Well, I have my long drive to the Newark airport and then a flight home, and I'm so excited, but I need to catch you up. So I finished The Coworker by Frida McFadden, and I'm giving it 3 stars. It certainly was not great or what I was hoping to get from Frida McFadden, but most of my complaints I saw in the reviews aren't how her books normally go. So the first half of the book, part 1, was pretty boring. It took a while to get through. Part 2, there was a twist, which I expected a twist like this because of a certain element of the book we were reading. But then there was a little extra twist that I was excited by. Sorry, I'm being vague. But then there weren't that many more twists in it, and I heard Frida McFadden writes wild books. It was pretty good, but I did not love the characters. I didn't love the twists. I thought the characters were kind of caricatures, but also lacking much personality besides being obsessed with turtles. We know Dawn is obsessed with turtles. But yeah, the characters weren't so unique. However, I then read reviews and people were saying, compared to other books, the plot twists aren't as exciting, the characters aren't as good, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like this could be improved. Right now, it's my lowest rated book so far, but I'm excited to read The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret, because hopefully those will be so good. I do love, though, that of the books that I've read before The Coworker, I've given everything 5 or 4 stars, which is pretty exciting. Since then, I've started on my Kindle Don't Let Her Stay by Nicola Sanders. This book, it makes me feel funny because I obviously very much enjoy books, love books. I did not know this book even existed. I've never heard of it. I feel like I haven't been paying enough attention to Kindle Unlimited. Like, for this to have so many readers for a thriller that came out this year, I've never heard of it. That's so interesting. As much as I say I wish I'd heard of it, I'm not loving it. Now, Don't Let Her Stay is very page turning. I have been clicking through. I got up early this morning and sat outside to watch the sunrise over the mountains and read my book. And I was getting so sucked into the book instead of looking at the view, which is a good sign. I'm about 25% into this book. So this follows our main character, Joanna. She is married to a man named Richard. They recently moved into this house, had a baby, life is grand. She is taking some time off work to be a mom. Baby life is a little bit boring. She's getting lonely, so she wants to start back up working. Meanwhile, her husband Richard is such an a-hole, and we often get that in thrillers, right? Their husband likes to gaslight them, they have anger issues and whatnot, but his is just so blatant that it doesn't feel very genuine. He's just like a not great character, and I'm wondering, why are you even with him? He's like, where are the redeeming qualities? Where's the love story that makes us understand how you got into a situation with an a-hole? But she doesn't seem that concerned with him being a little aggressive and angry, so I guess I won't be too concerned. But Richard has a daughter named Chloe from a previous marriage. His wife died when his daughter Chloe was younger. Whenever Richard married Joanna, she was super upset with him and hasn't talked to him for the last 18 months. So now Chloe contacted Richard to say she wants to be back in his life and she wants to meet her baby sister. So now Chloe has moved in. I'm guessing that's the her and don't let her stay unless they're tricking us. And she is just a B word. And again, like, where's the subtlety? Where's the gradual climb into being this bad person? There is none. She literally just comes in and immediately is rude, hostile. Whenever she talks to her dad, Richard, she has this little baby voice. She's so sweet. Oh, dad. And mind you, she's at least 21. So it's like cringy the way she acts around her dad. And then as soon as he leaves the room and she's with Joanna, she just starts being evil. Oh my god. I think her name's Joanne. But Chloe keeps calling her Joanna, so now I'm accidentally calling her Joanna. She keeps saying rude things like, the baby's crying. She's like, oh, the baby doesn't like you. And she'll say, what did you say? I said the baby doesn't like that toy. Like, she just seems insane and evil. And then there's questionable things happening when she's around the baby, who she now wants to babysit instead of Joanne getting a nanny. She wants to do it, but she's not taking good care of her. She freaked out when she held her. It's entertaining, right? And I am kind of enjoying it just because it's easy. But the characters are just, you know, there's two super villains, and then our main character is just an idiot, and she's just taking it, and she's the biggest doormat in the world. And I just wish we could have these thrillers where these things are happening without the main character being a doormat, thinking she's crazy and all that. She's wondering, am I being paranoid? Is she really trying to harm me or my baby? Or am I just being paranoid like my mom? But her stupid husband isn't there to support her, and she's choosing Chloe over his wife. And then I don't want to give you another book update 3 in a row, but for my long drive, I have a little less than 2 hours to drive. I am going to be listening to I Have Some Questions for You. I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca McKay, I think. So I'll tell you more about that later. I did just stop at, is this Giant Eagle? Giant Foods? At a Starbucks. And I'm trying a new drink, so I thought I would share it with you. It's an iced gingerbread oat milk chai latte. It's a very long name. That's good. Strangely, so I love chai, and I love it because it tastes like Christmas. We may just need more stirring, but strangely, it tastes less like Christmas than a regular chai, even with the gingerbread added. But it's good. Very good. And I never get oat milk. I just drink regular milk. Ew, I know. That is good. I kind of wanted to change because I'm wearing jeans before my drive. Don't look at my company. But where am I going to do that? I don't know. So, back on the road, turning on my audiobook. Hello, I have made it home, obviously. And last night I managed to finish Don't Let Her Stay Here. Don't Let Her Stay. I don't like it. It was not very good. I'm startled that it's on the Goodreads Choice Awards. Okay, but why? Why didn't I like it? It was so unbelievable the way the characters acted. Like, I can't believe humans would act like this. It just didn't seem real. In thrillers, we often get a character who's like dark, weird, doing stuff to the main character that is sketchy, right? But normally the main character is like, well, is that really what they meant? Or is that really what they did? I can't tell. No, this one, the daughter is blatantly crazy rude and evil. And if she came in and was just rude, fine. Maybe, I mean, I wouldn't, but maybe you would try to work through that with her. But whenever this daughter comes in and we immediately think that she's trying to hurt or kill the baby, you gotta shut it down. Whether or not your mom was paranoid and you're worried maybe you are just being paranoid, I don't care. Get out of there. Isn't a mother's instinct to protect their child at all costs? So just the fact that she's like, I think she might be trying to kill my baby, but maybe not. I don't want to upset my husband, so I'll leave her alone. Are you crazy? We do end up finding out like some motives and getting some twists and reveals and whatever, but no matter how things ended up, the way things began, everyone was just not a person, not a real person. Again, more caricatures of what a person might be. And then we had some big plot twists, which I'm guessing is why people love it, but I've read those plot twists many a times. And also, some of the reveals that happened, whenever they happened, I was like, oh, so if you're saying that, then I bet this and this are gonna happen next. Because I've read it enough times, and yes, that's what happened. The best part about it though was how readable it was. I loved clicking through those pages. I feel like I'm giving it a 2.5, and I feel like The Coworker should also be a 2.5. I wanted to put that, but I didn't know how to make a half star on my little graph, but I figured out a solution, so they're both 2.5s. Not going great so far for the Kindle Unlimited reads, but I did start The Housemaid today, but now that I'm home, I'm reunited with my physical copy, and I am on page 128. So this book, I'm reading and wondering if the Don't Let Her Stay author read this book and was like, I like all those ideas, I'm gonna use them, because a lot of the reveals or information we get are similar, which is annoying me, because this one came out first, right? Because the sequel to this is on the Goodreads Choice Awards. So, in this book, we're following our main character, Millie, who has a troubled past that we don't have much information on yet. But at the beginning of the book, she is living out of her car and she lost her job. So, somehow she winds up with this job as a housemaid for this wealthy woman named Nina, who seems like the nicest human in the world, and her husband Andrew, who is a hunk. Because of her troubled past, she really needs this job and can't be too picky. But when she gets in the house, so she finds out she'll be living there up in the attic, which is this tiny little creepy room that has a lock on the outside, which I'll live in my car. I'll die in the streets before I let you lock me in the attic. But the fact that there's a lock on the door, she's gonna get locked in there. I mean, there's a keyhole on the cover. But there's the creepy attic, and then after she starts working there, Nina is an absolute wackadoo, which is reminding me of Don't Let Her Stay, because it doesn't take long for her to start showing that she's crazy and blaming Millie for things. And there's a scare with like her giving the daughter peanut butter, and the daughter's like, oh my god, she's trying to kill me, I'm allergic to peanuts. And she also like blames her for doing stuff. So I don't know, again with the self-preservation, if you're working for a woman who's absolutely nuts and she's already falsely accusing you of things and you're just like, oh well, I've got to make it work. No, what if she falsely accuses you of something and you end up in prison? You end up in trouble. She attacks you because she's crazy and thinks you did something. But then we have this hot landscaper who doesn't speak English, who's telling her like, you should leave, it's dangerous. Well, he's trying to tell her that, kind of, but he speaks Italian, so we can't really talk to him. Download a language app. Anyways, and then we've got the hot husband who she's like getting the tingles for, and probably gonna get herself into more trouble. But yeah, just like the other book, Millie is planning a party for her and trying to be extra nice to her and tiptoeing around her and letting her be insane and then just cleaning up the mess afterwards. And I wish women in thrillers had better self-preservation skills and we could have these fun, thrilling stories without them seeming like idiots the whole time. But this is the Frida McFadden book. So I can't wait to see what the twist is. And obviously I'm reading this that's not on the Goodreads list, but the sequel is. So I have to get through this so then I can actually read the book on the Goodreads Choice Awards. And since we're looking at physical books, while we were in Pennsylvania, I was on the internet making orders. I would just really like to hold all of the top 10, once we know what the top 10 is, in my hand. So Besides the books that I already owned, I picked up quite a few. I was able to spend my Pango bucks that have just been sitting on my account from selling my books. So one that I got before I decided what the top 10 will probably be. I'm saying top 10 because I don't really know. My spreadsheet's just my guess based off of number of ratings. But All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. That is beautiful. And then I have The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden. Don't Let Her Stay, this terrible book by Nicola Sanders. I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca McKay. The Coworker by Frida McFadden. And then some more from before I did my top 10 guess. Happiness Falls by Angie Kim. Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. And Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. This one I planned on buying anyways. And then the person who was selling this had multiple of the other ones. So that was really exciting. And these are perfect brand new condition. So that's what I have so far. I'll show you my beautiful stack once I get more stuff in. I finished The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I just don't even know what to say to you right now. So I wasn't loving it, okay? The thing that happens in this book is obvious from the cover. It's also obvious from something that's said in the first like 10 pages. But it took forever to get there and I wasn't enjoying myself. Having another protagonist who just gets tortured by somebody and just keeps clicking along is crazy to me. But then I got to a certain point where I was enjoying myself a little bit. So I didn't like the beginning. Then a big reveal happened and I really didn't like the next part. And then something else happened and I was loving it for a little bit of time. If you've read it, you know why. It was just like so much fun what was happening. But then I didn't love it again. So I have to mention for Frida McFadden, since I just read 2 of her books, I'm not going to spoil anything, okay? I'm going to vaguely say that there are 2 major best-selling thriller books that have the same twists. And I know that thriller tropes, thriller reveals, plot twists get recycled, right? But these both have unique ones that are the same plot twist as millions copies sold thrillers. It's like if in a horror novel I was reading, the horror was that there's a clown in a sewer. It's obviously it. It's obviously So I don't like that. And I don't know if the people who love this haven't read those books, but the 2 books I'm talking about, like the plot twist is the exact same unique plot twist. I'm not on board with that. That's weird. But put that aside, it's not very well written. It's not very enjoyable. At least it wasn't for me. Obviously, a lot of people enjoy it. I don't know why. And I want to know if you loved it, if you read that book, but obviously I'm not going to say what it is because that would spoil one or the other for you. Yikes. I also want to mention, and this is common in thrillers, not just the ones I'm reading, why are floorboards so creaky? Why are stairs so creaky? Why is everyone always sneaking around? But then, why by the end of all of these books have they mastered like where to step on the floor so it does or doesn't creak? But this, Don't Let Her Stay, I hate to keep picking on this book, but it was so crazy, the creaky floorboards. So I'm not spoiling anything. So someone was sneaking around the house so cautiously while people were sleeping, so carefully, tiptoe, slow creep, to not make a sound, to not creak the floor. And then suddenly somebody's standing right there like, what are you doing? After they were sneaking around, right? So they were sneaking so you wouldn't hear them. But then this other person can just pop up without creaking a floorboard and them not notice. I don't know, that was funny. It was stupid, but funny. We got some creaky floorboards in here as well. I wanted to take a little break before I pick up The Housemaid's Secret because I might be Frida McFaddened out. And I'm pretty excited because I started with the audiobook of The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. I was loving it, like literally from the first chapter. I got a good feeling about it. We're following a woman named Emily, and she is a cozy mystery author. She's working on book number 10 of her Petal Bloom series. But unfortunately, she's also getting a divorce from her husband, who is trying to take her proceeds and future royalties of her cozy mystery series in the divorce. And then she's also recovering from a recent mysterious illness. At the beginning of the book, Emily's best friend Chess, who is a world famous self-help author, invites her to a villa in Italy to spend the summer. So Emily's so excited. She gets to leave her worries behind and hopefully get some writing inspiration, because she's kind of feeling writer's block from writing Petal Bloom number 10. The main love interest in her book series was heavily inspired by her husband, and obviously she doesn't like her husband, soon to be ex-husband, too much. But the villa that they're staying in was previously where a murder took place. Some rock stars were staying there and somebody died. Emily's a little interested in that. And then we're also getting flashbacks to 1974 to that group where the murder ends up happening. So we're following a few characters, a sibling duo, and the rock stars. So I'm loving our present day Emily and Chess storyline in Italy. It's so not seasonally appropriate right now, but I'm just loving having our Italian summer right now. And even though Emily is struggling and trying to figure things out, and her and Chess have like some friendship dynamics that they're working through, I feel like very light and happy when I'm reading that part. Like, I love the tone there. The 1974 setting is not light and breezy. Like, there's definitely a heaviness and a darkness to it, even without knowing that it ends in a death. Just the things that our characters are dealing with and the relationship dynamics are just a lot darker in that past storyline. So I don't love that part, but overall I'm enjoying it so much, and it reminds me a little bit of Lisa Jewell. So I'm enjoying it, and I'm excited to keep reading it. It's me popping in again to update you. So I recently got a new camera, and I'm struggling with how to use it. If you have a Sony Alpha and you have tips, please let me know. I followed a YouTube tutorial and it actually made it worse, which you'll notice in my footage. There's some really bad clips. I turned on the wind blocker because the guy said turn that on. It won't do anything if it's not windy. Lies. My sound is messed up. My picture quality is all over the place, but I'm making it work. So I had trouble filming some of my clips, and then I also just forgot to film some clips. So this one I'm particularly updating you because I didn't tell you that I finished The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. I actually think I updated my sister after I finished reading it, and I thought I had updated the vlog. Coincidentally, my mom bought me this lemon mug, not knowing I was currently reading The Villa, just because I love yellow and I love lemons. And how cute is that? But this book, I told you I was really enjoying while I was reading it. But unfortunately, it took a downturn. There's a big thing going on in the book that I felt like had a very obvious plot twist. And I feel like the author intended to have that be the plot twist and then changed her mind, but didn't go back and fix the setup for this thing. Obviously, I don't want to spoil you about it, but a comparison I would say, if our main character had a boss and the boss's perfume was a very specific scent, and she started smelling that scent on her husband, then she'd be like, oh, that's weird. He kind of smells like my boss's perfume. And then let's say our main character bought her boss a new perfume for Christmas, a different, unique scent. And then she smelled that on her husband again. You'd be like, okay, obvious plot twist. The husband is cheating with your boss. But then the book says, no, it was just a weird coincidence. Or no, it must have just been a popular perfume at the time. That's how the plot twist felt. It felt like it was so perfectly set up, and then something strange happened. But Anyways, back to the actual story. Both storylines I got really intrigued with. I was still enjoying the present day two authors in a villa storyline the best because the past one was just getting darker and darker as the impending death of one of the rock stars was on its way. But I was enjoying that the present day author was intrigued in looking into that past story timeline. But then both timelines fell apart. The things that happened with the two authors in our present day timeline went weird and not in a good way. And then the past timeline had some interesting reveals and twists that I liked where it was going. And then the author said, never mind, just kidding. It ended up being 4. It's kind of a 3.5 now that I discuss it more. But I definitely want to read from this author again. But this one left me a little disappointed. So remember, I was so excited to show you the stack of the top Goodreads choices, and I never actually did. So here you go. Here's what it looked like. And then I didn't tell you I was headed back to Scranton, and now we can get back to the vlog. I am back in Pennsylvania now, and I flew into Newark again and drove the rest of the way. So I listened to a good portion of Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jesse Sutanto. First off, if you're wondering where I got this cool cover, this is the UK version that I found in a used bookstore. It's so cute. Although I do wish I had the one with Vera Wong on it now because I love her. She is this older woman. She has a tea shop in Chinatown in San Francisco. She lives in a little apartment above the tea shop, and one morning she comes down and there's a dead body on the floor of her tea shop. So Vera Wong assumes that it's murder. She draws the chalk outline herself before the police come, and she immediately tries to investigate the murder herself, and she's so cute, so funny. I'm loving it so much. I love the Chinatown setting and all the culture that we're getting, the food discussions. We have multiple different Asian characters and just their bond, but also their differences and their family situations are so good. But we have Vera Wong, who's investigating the murder, but then we have a few suspects. So we have a couple of people who showed up pretending to be a journalist or a podcaster so that they can get more information about the murder, but we read a little bit from their perspective and we know that they're lying just so they can get information. So Vera Wong gathers them together and lets them know, like, I have my other suspect on the way here. And they're like, I'm a suspect? And she's like, she kind of tells them why they're suspects, and then she's kind of just investigating, but she's just this bossy old woman and everyone has trouble not just doing what she says. And it's just so good. Like, she's created this little family of her suspects, and I'm just hoping none of them did it because I love them. We also have the dead man's wife and daughter and his twin brother. And I really have no idea what could have happened with this murder, but I'm very excited to find out. And there were truly points in this book where I didn't actually tear up, but I felt like crying because it was just so precious, and I love them, and I want them all to just be a little family together. But Vera Wong, she has a son who is moved out. He doesn't really follow her cultural traditions with how he should be with his mother, and her husband died of a stroke, so she's kind of by herself. So seeing her with this group is just wonderful. I think I'm maybe halfway through. I did bring a puzzle to do in the hotel in case I want to keep listening to my audiobook. So that's what I'm gonna do. And also I brought my Nintendo Switch. So I should have time for audiobook, and I do have a couple physical books that I'm reading. Actually, I should probably update you on that. Hold on. So on my flight, I did read about 100 pages of I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca McKay. I was listening to the audiobook for this over a week ago, and I was getting a little confused, a little bored, and I figured I should switch to the physical book, and I am enjoying the physical book better. So we're following our main character, Bodhi, who went to a private school in the New England area, and as an adult now, she is returning to teach a couple of classes. So Bodhi has a famous podcast, and so she's teaching a class on podcast and also one on film. And when Bodhi attended this school, her former roommate was murdered on campus, and a man was sent to prison for it. But now one of her students in the podcast class wants to investigate it because she doesn't think that they put the right man in prison. And Bodhi is, of course, interested by that. And also, Bodhi is separated from her husband, who has recently been accused of some misconduct. So, it's honestly the most boring book that I've read in this vlog so far. Even if the other books weren't always great, they were entertaining. And this one is kind of a drag. It feels like it's trying to be clever, but it's like half failing and kind of just, I don't know, making it a snooze fest. So I'll keep reading that. It's just not the most exciting thing to read or to talk about. But I think my dinner is now at my door, so gotta go. Are you kidding? Does it look like we're in a scary movie? Well, it's really dark outside. I have some good news and some bad news. Bad news. The Goodreads top 10 came out, and literally nothing that I've read in this video is in the top 10. Why? What did I do to deserve this? I just guessed completely wrong. Well, I didn't guess completely wrong, but I picked which books to read in the wrong order. I'm very upset about it. And not only that, but book 4 of the Thursday Murder Club is in the top 10. And obviously I can't read that. That's impossible. I also don't want to read Homecoming by Kate Morton. So everything thus far has been for naught. Especially all those 2-star books that I read. The very small silver lining is that I just finished Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, and I gave it 5 stars. I love it so much. It's so cute. I love all the characters. Now, I wouldn't vote for it for best mystery thriller because I didn't even care about the mystery. The only thing I cared about was I hope none of the characters that I love committed murder, because I want my little family to stay together. I don't know, I felt so connected to Vera and to all the characters, and I just have warm, fuzzy feelings reading that book. And I love it. And I did like the solve of the mystery. It was pretty cool. We had a little twist in there, so cute. I could really use a Vera Wong figure in my life to like motivate me and just push me to just do stuff. Another kind of good news is that every book that I've read that is in the top 10, I've given 5 stars. So far, I actually agree with the top 10 being the top 10. And the other books I've read didn't make it to the top 10. So there's some good and some bad. I will be suffering because of this, because now I have 6 books to read, and obviously I can't read all 6. But I have a lot of reading to do and not much time left, so that's my plan. So Vera Wong was my audiobook. I brought a puzzle. I have this 4-pack of Thomas Kincaid puzzles. Who's that? I have a 4-pack of Thomas Kincaid puzzles. I don't even know which one I grabbed. I just reached in the box and grabbed a random one, and I started assembling it last night. My back was freaking killing me, but I was listening to that when I finished the audiobook. So I need to find a new audiobook. I have some questions for you. Is such a drag. I'm actually going to put that aside again. And I've started The Housemaid's Secret a little bit, but I'll tell you more about that once I know more about that. I don't know what's been going on with me, but I literally have a headache every day by the time I leave the office. I've just been working, reading, eating, sleeping, and talking on the phone too much. So yeah, there's my update for you. I have now started The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden, the top read thriller in the Goodreads Choice Award. So, I'm trying to stay positive, but I'm 12% in, I think, and I am already a little surprised. The Housemaid started off in a way that made me think the sequel would jump right in to the next thing that we were kind of introduced to. But it's actually a few years later, and I was so thrown off that I checked 3 separate times to make sure The Housemaid's Secret is book 2 and not book 3. Is there a little novella somewhere that I'm missing? I don't know. Maybe part of the story is going to be catching up on what she's been doing for the last few years. But our lady Millie is still a housemaid, and now we're following a plot with her boyfriend, a new client of hers, this man who lives in this penthouse overlooking Central Park, and his wife she has not met yet, but she's unwell and she is locked in a room. So part of me is just waiting to see which major thriller plot she has taken this time, but part of me is like, oh, hopefully it's good. I'm also going to be putting I Have Some Questions For You on the back burner because it's just taking me so long to read. I can't do it right now. So tomorrow I work at the office until 2:30, and then I leave for my drive to Newark Airport and then fly home. So I need another audiobook to listen to. We'll decide what that's going to be later. But tonight I do need to pack up my stuff and then just get to reading. I have a lot of reading to get done in a very short amount of time. So, hi, you get to see me in the daylight again. I'm done with the work week. I am about to head home. Well, start my long journey home. I made a new concoction. I wanted my normal tea drink to be festive. It's good. So I got my tea. I got my new tea sweatshirt on. And I have to update you again. My reading is so crazy. So remember my drive to Pennsylvania last time? I started listening to Bright Young Women by whatever her name is. And then I thought I had a master plan on how to figure out the top 10, which I failed at, right? So I had listened to about 12% of Bright Young Women. Now, yesterday, I picked it back up, the audiobook. I was so sucked in. So I had decided to edit out my intro, but I'm going to share it with you now. So I had no idea before what it was about, but I guess it's partially inspired by Ted Bundy, which, again, why when I'm traveling all alone am I reading scary books? I don't know. And this one in particular is a man came into this sorority house in the 70s. I think it was the 70s. Hurt and killed multiple women there. And we're following the main sorority house leader the night before, during, and then the aftermath of this attack. But we're also getting her viewpoint from present day. Not sure if it's literal present day. I think it's actually 2014 or so is the present day. And she's reflecting on what happened. And like you already know from the beginning that the person who did this, who was responsible, she testified against him in court. He's already been executed. He was on death row. He killed 35 women across multiple years. And so I'm not sure the point of this book, if there is going to be a mystery. Well, I know there'll kind of be one, like a whodunit, but I don't think they know the guy who did it. And we're going to go through the experience of obviously the horrible tragedy happening and how it affects everyone, and the court case and the investigation. But we kind of already know how it turns out. So very intrigued by that. And now I can tell you that last night when I listened, I was loving it so much, especially after reading or trying to read I Have Some Questions For You by Rebecca McKay. This book, Bright Young Women, is what that book wants to be. It is clever. It is saying something. So we have a serial killer We already know that he ends up executed for his crimes, but we are flashing back to our main character when her sorority house was attacked by him and she was the only eyewitness. But the police don't really believe her because at first she said that it might have been somebody else. Just at first glance she thought it was this guy and then realized it wasn't him, it was somebody else. We are with her in 2021 while she's checking something out about the case. We're with her in 1970 something, right after the crime occurs. She meets this woman who thinks she knows who the serial killer is and wants our main character's help. So then we also get flashes back to, I think, the late 60s for a character whose friend was possibly murdered by the same serial killer. But we are following the person who was killed's perspective, which I'm like so scared to get to the part where she dies, if we get to that part, and if she was killed by the serial killer, because I've gotten so attached to her. The characters in this book are so good. They're incredible characters because they aren't very likable. Ruth, the one in the late 60s who we think was murdered, she is like a people pleaser. She's very self-deprecating and it's painful to see. And then our main character, I can't remember her name, I'm sorry. She is a stickler for the rules. She wakes up early. She always wants to look presentable. She's always putting manners and what's proper first, which again can be very unlikable, but I love them. And then we have Martina, who's in two of the timelines, who is from some sketchy situations, and she has an odd perspective on life, and sometimes she can be a nuisance, but I just love them all and I want what's best for them. Now obviously there's a serial killer, but he's also doing other things. And it's so hard to read and made me sick to my stomach, the other things that the serial killer's done, but also other things that the women in this book have gone through, like different levels and forms of abuse. And it's so sad. And I know I just said this about Vera Wong, but listening to Bright Young Women, I just wanted to cry. Like, I was equally so sucked in and fascinated, but I also just wanted to cry because my heart hurt for them. So that part is a little brutal. I am very sensitive to stuff, but because the book's so good, I'm gonna make my way through it. So now I have my 2+ hour drive. I'm also starving for lunch. And then I have a flight to catch. So I'm gonna have lots of audiobook time and then physical reading time, and it's just gonna be a great Friday. I'm back. I finished my book and yeah, I just want to cry. This book is discussing the world's fascination with crime without being too direct about it. Well, maybe it is too direct, but I loved it. Just the fact that people become fans of what's going on, or of a serial killer, or of a trial, and how consumed the world can be by it, and like thinking a serial killer's hot, or he was so clever and brilliant, whatever. And how part of that is just sensationalizing things for people's enjoyment, and how people talk to and about these criminals sometimes, but also the negative ways that, say, a witness or a victim may be talked to or about. And it was just painful. And there were some satisfying moments, but overall it's just so painful, like discussing the horrible things that people can do to each other and the horrible things that happen to people. And my eyes are watering. It was just so nice. No, it wasn't nice. It was so sad. And, we had a couple of victims that we were either following or talking about a lot. And just looking at somebody and knowing that they're gonna die, or that they already died, and discussing like where they would be now. It was so sad. And also like people who are polite and have manners, and even when you get a weird feeling about somebody and you're like still just trying to be a good person. Oh my gosh. Am I okay? So. Also, I love how it's kind of narrated by our main character, and they don't use his name in the book. It's not real, okay? It's fiction. But they don't use this fictional serial killer's name ever in the book, because it's like, when these things happen, it's all about Ted Bundy, right? That's what's interesting. But that's not who's important. That's not who should be getting the attention. The concern should be about victims and stopping this person from doing bad things to other people. And it shouldn't be turned into this media circus where we're like, wow, how did he manage to do this? He's so clever. I can't even think straight. Also, okay, what was weird, last night when I was listening to the audiobook, I was playing Candy Crush. Today, I'm driving to the Newark airport. The audiobook said both those things while I was playing Candy Crush.
The 20-something security guard glances away from a game of Candy Crush long enough to see me place my bag on the belt and then goes right back to the game. I always took a taxi home from Newark Airport. Denise loved that about coming home with me.
And then now while I was driving, look how long it's taking me to drink this, with my venti iced chai latte. The main character was at Starbucks ordering a venti iced chai latte. And the girls behind her were ordering some iced things with foam on it. I have an iced thing that I added foam to. Anyways, if you couldn't tell, it's dark now and raining, and this rental car has the worst wipers I've ever seen, and it's not a nice clear picture of the road that I would like. It didn't rain all week. It did snow for about an hour, but it rained on my drive here, and it's raining on my drive leaving when I have the worst wipers known to mankind. So I'm gonna get back on the road because my flight leaves in 3 hours. And I still have an hour drive left. Okay, goodbye.
Control of their personal property, including carry-on baggage.
You have all your personal belongings before the plane. As we reach our gate, we invited to use Flight Delta.
I'm so happy to be here. I got back last night, and today I had a bunch of errands to run and something to do, but now I'm actually home with the boys. So last night after that drive, one of the worst drives of my life. So rainy, so dark. The road was so reflective I couldn't see the lines. It was awful. And next time I'll just have an 8-hour flying day instead of trying to drive and fly and make my life complicated. So I did end up getting halfway through The Housemaid's Secret on the plane. Let me see what page I'm on. 175. And yeah, I have the physical copy, but this just feels good sometimes. So The Housemaid's Secret. Obviously it's a sequel, but it's very strange because I did see someone say you could read this as a standalone, which was interesting to think because it's the same character in the future. But strangely, reading it as a sequel, I told you, I kept checking to see if this was the third book, because almost everything she's reflecting on, we never saw. And she's talking about what she's been up to for the last couple years, and it's not the stuff that we saw her up to in book one. So I'm still so thrown off by that. And I still feel like I'm missing a book. Am I missing a book? Do you know? We have some storyline going that was a little similar to the first one. Not 100%, but a little bit something similar. Our main character, Millie, she has a lawyer boyfriend who is like way too into her and thinks she's so perfect, but she hasn't told him about her past, so she's worried that he won't be so happy if he finds out about her past, and maybe he won't want to be with her. He's being super clingy. Then she also thinks she's being followed by this black Mazda that she keeps seeing multiple places in her life. Then she has this weird situation going on with her new employer that she's a housemaid for. Then she also has this weird situation going on with a neighbor. It's just, there's a lot of things going on, and I am interested to see where it goes. I don't know how it's gonna go, but I want to read it now, so that's a good sign. I feel like reading it. I cannot believe I'm actually almost done reading, so I'm not going to read the fourth book in a series, obviously, because I never started it. And I'm not going to read Homecoming by Kate Morton because I couldn't care less. It's a 600-page historical fiction. So I have half of The Housemaid's Secret, all of All of the Sinners Bleed, and then half of I Have Some Questions for You, which I've been reading for quite some time. But that's all I have left to read. So hopefully I can finish this today and finish everything this weekend. But really crazy, after finishing Bright Young Women, which I'm still thinking about, and I want to physically reread because I feel like it'll hit even harder. But it's so strange that every book I've read so far that is in the top 10, I've given 5 stars. How did that happen? I expected to read more duds. Well, I did read some duds, but for the top 10 to be all 5 stars so far, now, I highly doubt this could be a 5-star unless it blew my freaking mind. But we're really on a good trajectory so far. So I'm just gonna lay here in my pajamas and get to reading. I've been waiting to find out whose twist she stole. She stole her own twist. Her own twist! I saw someone say this book is the same as the first book. And I've been reading it like, no, it's not. The plot's completely different. The plot's different. The format is copied. Literally the way she formatted some of the text for reveal is the same. Oh, Frida. And now we're once again back to me, so I can tell you how The Housemaid's Secret ended off. So I gave this book 3 stars. Again, Frida McFadden is just not my vibe. I think her writing is not for me and not very good, but also the setup, the twists and everything, it just seems very gimmicky and the characters have no real depth. There were some interesting things that happened. I will say I did get surprised by a couple things that happened, and there was a big twist that I did not see coming at all. But the whole vibe of the book, I really didn't enjoy that much. I was intrigued enough to keep reading though. She writes very readable, page-turning books, but again, not my favorite. I don't plan on reading more Frida McFadden unless she's in next year's Goodreads. And then I picked up and accidentally read the entirety of All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. I was so afraid to read this book. I thought it was going to be graphic or detailed in a way that I wouldn't be able to handle. I don't love dark things. I think I've said that a couple of times now. So I started this book. It follows a detective named Titus who lives in a southern small town. It's a little bit racist, sometimes a lot racist. And he is a former FBI agent, now sheriff. He is black. And he's dealing a lot with the town having an issue with a black sheriff, but also dealing with the black community no longer seeing him as a black man. He's now blue. They have a wall up with him since he became sheriff. But he really just wants to help this town. He wants to redeem himself for a past mistake he feels like he made that we find out about later in the book. And this book starts off in a school shooting, so very high energy, high anxiety from the very beginning. There is a former student. He goes in with a gun and he shoots one of the most popular, well-liked teachers and then comes outside and the police end up shooting him. So there is a discussion of, was it a good shooting? Did they need to kill the shooter? But before they killed him, he said, look at that teacher's phone. So once they get into that phone, they find pictures and videos of the teacher, that former student, and someone else doing or being there for some horrific acts with children. And that's why I was very afraid of this book, but it handled it so well. We never get a graphic description of what was happening. There's a part where he says, I want to tell them, imagine the worst possible thing that someone could be doing in that video. That's what it was times 10. And like, obviously we know what they were doing, but I just didn't want to get too in depth. It was still hard to read, and our main character is so affected by what he had to watch and see, and he felt like he needed to hold that burden for his department, that he would be the one to bear witness to these crimes. And he just has such a good connection with people, and the way he looks at having to take care of his town as the sheriff is so wonderful and lovely. Even for people who outright hate him, he wants to take care of his town. So since the two perpetrators were already dead during the school shooting, there is a third guy who was masked and hidden. And throughout the book, we're trying to figure out who that third guy was, speaking to a lot of the townsfolk to see, like, do you know anyone who fits this description? There's some weird religious stuff involved. And as we dig deeper into this town's past and some of the dark nature of things that were going on there, it's really hard to read again, but so entertaining, just like Bright Young Women. It was dark subject matter, but so compelling, and it's really opened me up to a new type of mystery thriller that I previously wasn't as interested in. I really read mysteries and thrillers for entertainment value, but these two books have really made me reevaluate what I'm looking for when I pick up a mystery or thriller. So I read this entire book in one day, and by the end I had to give it 5 stars. I loved the physical reading experience. I partially listened to the audiobook. The narrator's so good, and I really enjoyed reading about this town with the complex race discussions and seeing the dynamics of a small town police department. It was so good. I can't wait to read more S.A. Cosby. I honestly got rid of Razorblade Tears because I just thought it was going to be too dark for me, but now I want to read everything he's written. And then the most painful book of this video, I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca McKay. I was reading this throughout almost the entire vlog. I kept putting it down. Even when I would pick up and read 100 pages, I just wasn't interested in reading it again. So I got the audiobook for it just so I could get through it. And there does come a certain point in the novel where we have a time jump and we're finally getting some answers. And when that happened, it did get a bit more entertaining, but I really don't think this is a great book. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I keep bringing up Bright Young Women, but this was the opposite of Bright Young Women. This book, when I finished it, my reaction was, this book is so selfish and gross. Like, the story it wanted to tell, we have a black man who went to prison. Whether he did it or not, it was after a very poor attempt to find any other suspects or find out who really did it. But then we have our main character who makes everything about her. So the death of her former roommate, the investigation into whether or not the man in prison committed the crime, and other characters and part of the story are looking at her like she's being selfish and wants attention, and in her mind she's like, no, I'm not. But it's like, yes, you are. And the way that the author wrote it is like, what are you doing? Why did you write this, and why did you write it like this? It's so strange how this book was done, and I would love to hear from someone who loves it what you got out of this story. Our main character, also her husband, was kind of accused of stuff. He's getting canceled for something he did in his past. And the way that was handled was also weird and gross. I don't know. I didn't like this. It was a sour note to leave on, but I had just read this amazing book, so I'm fine with it. All right, so before we find out who the winner is, let's do a little recap. Here are all the books that I read during this video. Here are the books that I read that made it to the top 10. I did not read Homecoming by Kate Morton or the 4th Thursday Murder Club book, but I did read 12 of the top 20 books in the mystery thriller category. I did have quite a few 5-star reads, which I'm very happy with, but let me tell you what my favorite books are. This is my favorite cozy mystery that I've read maybe ever. I love Vera Wong. She's so precious. I wouldn't vote for this here because the mystery element is not really what kept me reading and the part that I loved about it. I love the found family. I love the writing. I love the characters. But I really hope this book has a sequel, and if there was a cozy mystery category, she should win. Bright Young Women I loved so much, and I never plan on reading this book, so I'm really happy I did for this video. I also would not vote for this one because it actually takes the mystery and thriller out of the book because it's telling us that's not what's important. These things don't happen for our entertainment and enjoyment, and I love that element, but I don't want to vote for it as the mystery thriller. All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby, again, another favorite, another author I can't wait to read more books from. This one is a very close contender, and I wouldn't mind if it won, but it's just not exactly, again, what I'm looking for when I'm reading a mystery thriller. It has a very serious tone and again takes away some of the fun for me. Mystery thrillers for me, I really want to be fun, even if we're dealing with dark subject matter, which don't think I'm crazy then for saying this is who I would vote for to win this category. It again is a kind of dark topic, but since there's a lot of domestic elements thrown in, drama and such, I was entertained and I was having fun. Say what you will about me if this is my version of fun, but this one would get my vote because it was just highly entertaining. But I loved so many of these books. Now, in an unfortunate turn of events, I actually can't vote on the Goodreads Awards because voting already closed and I was still busy reading, so I didn't get to vote. But I haven't seen who wins. I just announced the winners and I've been dying to find out and I haven't gotten spoiled yet. So let me see who won and we'll see if I'm excited or not about that. So as I guessed, from my very well calculated spreadsheet that failed me in any way except for this one, The Housemaid's Secret won Best Mystery Thriller, which is no surprise because this is a popularity contest and this book had 300,000 readers. Like, it should win. Everyone read this book and a lot of people loved it. I'm glad they loved it, but it wasn't for me. I think I can see who placed after it. So The Housemaid's Secret received 86,000 votes. Second place was None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. Third was The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Fourth is The Last Devil to Die by Richard Osman. Fifth was Vera Wong. Sixth was Bright Young Women. Seventh was All the Dangerous Things. Eighth, Homecoming. Ninth, I Have Some Questions for You. And 10th, All the Sinners Bleed. So obviously I disagree with that a bit. I'm so glad that I made it through. I've attempted to do a Goodreads reading challenge before and I quit. So I'm happy I read all these books. I had a great time. I hope you enjoyed and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.